So now I'm going to tell you about the CIA, right? CIA's origins is World War II. It was a branch of the Army originally. It was under the Army, U.S. Army Command. Tasked with tracking down, hunting Nazis on the run in Europe right after the war, ostensibly to bring them to justice for war crimes. General Patton, made a public statement that we defeated the wrong enemy. And the CIA, not yet named the CIA, ran his Jeep off the road and put him in the hospital. He was paralyzed, and then, while he was in the hospital, they finished the job. But right after they killed Patton, they realized he was right. There was a problem, a very serious problem, and now they were hunting Nazis not to bring them to justice, but to recruit them into the CIA. The communists had already they pretty much owned the State Department, the U.S. State Department. They pretty much do today, only they call them globalists now. But back then, so getting back to the CIA. So they recruited the Nazis because the Nazis were the only, they had the intelligence, the strategy, the tactics, not only to fight Stalin, Soviet Union, and communism, global communism. They were good at it. In fact, they would have done it without the United States getting in their way. So these Nazis were so good at what they did, and they taught the CIA. They pretty much taught them everything they know. And one of their objects, and what the Nazis explained, was it saves a lot of time and money to defeat a country without having to do it militarily, right? Just simply thwart, subvert their elections, or... Guy just ran a fucking red light. Alright, so getting back to the CIA. So there was a guy named Quisling, right, in Norway. The Nazis put him in power because they needed Norway. They needed it for many reasons, most of which they put submarine bases there, U-boat bases in Norway. And they knew they weren't going to defeat Norway militarily any more than the Soviet Union was going to defeat Finland militarily. You had to thwart the government somehow, subvert the government, subvert elections, rig the system so your guy is always running things, right? And so Quisling became the archetype, right? And the CIA, during the Cold War, because the Soviet Union and the Nazis used similar tactics. The Soviet Union was putting up puppet regimes all over Africa, South America, Cuba. Fidel Castro was a Soviet Union puppet. So the CIA ostensibly said, well, we got to use the same tactics because we're not going to win these countries over fair and square. We're not going to be able to, subvert them with military might. It's just not cost effective, and in terms of public relations, it's just not a good thing to do, right? It's easier to get a puppet in there. So let me wrap this up. So what do we have today? So 1989, the Soviet Union collapses. So there's really, the CIA created this infrastructure, this intelligence, this strategy tactic of subverting elections in other countries, so we'd always have our people in charge running those. We didn't care if we had to put a proper dictator up, we would do it. Soviet Union did the same thing. But once the Soviet Union collapsed, now what do? Well, the CIA has always been a rogue organization. It is beholden to nobody, really. So what do you do with all this whole, what do you do with yourself? Well, he got this brilliant idea. Hey, we've been doing this all over planet Earth. Let's do it here in America. So it started out, easy enough. I mean, because the vice president at the time when the Soviet Union collapsed was George Bush Sr., who was a CIA man originally, right? He was a CIA agent before he became vice president. So they put him in there, and then something funny happened with when Clinton ran against him in a follow-up election. Ross Perot comes out of nowhere and kind of took enough votes away from Bush, and voila, Clinton's in there. Now, Clinton's entire campaign was financed by the Chi-Coms, Communist Chinese. And the CIA knew this, right? You'd have to read Year of the Rat. I don't know who wrote it offhand, but you can get it at the library. Just look for a book called The Year of the Rat. It was all about the Clinton years, his election, his re-election, and how much money was illegal money. Because again, foreign nationals are not allowed to participate in United States elections. It's against the law, right? And Clinton just egregiously violated that, and the CIA knew it. So obviously they were in on it, right? Because nothing was done. And oh yeah, Clinton also subverted the FBI during his time in the White House, his administration. So okay, thought that was bad, but it gets worse, right? So when Gore ran, now you got him running against George Jr., right? So George Jr., his father was a CIA agent. So I'm not sure if the CIA gave a fuck who won that election. Like, they didn't care if it was Gore or Bush. They're still running shit, right? But the thing with Gore is, where Clinton got away with it, Gore didn't. You got to go back to like 2000, read about that election and the money that Gore was getting from the Chi-Coms from China. So where do we go? Okay, so after that, then Bush gets in there. We have we know what happens right after that. 2001, September 11th. This is when the CIA completely, this was a coup, right? They completely take over. Just like Abraham Lincoln with, habeas corpus was, you didn't have your right. Your rights were taken away from you during the Civil War, right? So they did the same thing to us with the whole, the NSA, I don't need to give the play-by-play or list all the players. We know what happened, right? So I guess we'll just fast forward. No point. I'm at the 9-minute mark. I only got about 3 minutes left. I can't give the play-by-play with the 8 years of Obama, Afghanistan, all that shit. But it was all, again, CIA run, right? CIA's calling all the shots. They're the deep state, right? And to a lesser extent, the FBI, right? So let's just fast forward to now. What's going on now, right? So they clearly don't want Trump in there, right? And they'll do everything. They took him out and they replaced him with Biden, right? Because Biden didn't win that election. You got to be an idiot to think there's 81 million people with a pulse who can fog a mirror who voted for that asshole. It just didn't happen. They may have counted 81 million votes because they counted, 10 million votes 2 or 3 times in a row. Dead people voted for him. They just arbitrarily printed ballots that, represented fictitious people. Mickey Mouse, I don't know. All the Disney characters vote. I don't know how they came up with the 81 million, but they did it. And as soon as he took over, they staged this, the whole, there's no point in giving a play. Recent history, right? So here we are, who's running shit. Clearly, just look at Harris. I mean, okay, so Harris didn't win any campaign votes when she ran for the Democrat ticket back in the last election, 2020. She didn't win one state. Like, that's how repulsive this fucking woman is. Like, even Democrat operatives who are the scummiest people on planet Earth, like these are low-life people. These are people with no principles, ethics, morals. At best, they're pragmatic. It's all about power, right? And you get that power and keep that power by any means necessary. And if democratic, free and fair elections isn't doing the trick, you thwart them, you subvert them, right? So, yeah. So let's see what's going to happen next. I don't know if this was coherent enough. I mean, when I ran the script through my head over and over again before I turned the camera on, it ran smoothly. But I guess I'm just distracted because I'm driving. So I'll talk to you later.